From the center of the universe, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, this is the SDM Show with your host, Rob Cairns. The SDM Show focuses on business, life, productivity, digital marketing, WordPress, and more. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy the show. Here is Rob.
Hey everybody, I'm Rob Cairns. I'm the founder, CEO, and chief technologist at Stunning Digital Marketing. In today's show, I have Chris Kile with me, and we're going to talk all about how to scale your business without burnout. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. The SDM Show is brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, the digital marketing concierge that helps you put all your marketing pieces together. We are your marketing experts. We are also your WordPress security experts and know how to lock down a website and protect yourself from bad actors. So contact us at Stunning Digital Marketing today. Hey everybody, Rob Cairns here, and today I have my guest Chris Kile with me. Hey Chris, how you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. We're going to talk about businesses at scale and how to grow that business without burnout, killing yourself. Something many business owners do not get. I hate to say it. And, you and I were both talking before we went to air. We're in the holiday period and we're both busy as ever. So what else is new? But before we jump in, tell me a bit about your background and what led you down this path.
Yeah, I mean, so my name's Chris, as you said. I'm the founder of EO Staff. I'm based in Boston. And, you know, I've always been, ever since I was a kid, right? I always found a way to hustle, always, whether it's, I used to wash windows downtown. I would go knock on doors and say, hey, can I wash your storefront windows for $5 or whatever? But honestly, starting down the path of true entrepreneurship became because I can't hold a job, right? I was one of those guys that, I'm very opinionated and that just doesn't really, it's like, I don't love authority. And so, coming out of college and even in high school and in college, it was, I had a really hard time holding a job because I always had an opinion about something. And so it was kind of forced into that role. And fortunately, it's something that I really enjoy.
Yeah. And so you can't hold a job and you're washing windows. And I have the same problem, by the way. And how do you scale something like window washing? It's hard, right? Let's break it down like easy.
Yeah. I mean, fortunately for me, I was like 7 whenever I was doing that, but so I didn't really understand the concept of scale at that point. But I mean, even if you were to go back and really apply, delegation and scale to that model, I took it to as to my workload, right? To my full capacity at the point where I was doing it 2 or 3 days a week. And that was as much as I could do at that time. And obviously, if you want to apply today's principles to it, there's some, you could definitely scale it. It's, but your scope of, there's only so much work there.
Yeah. So what I would say to you, having been an entrepreneur for a long time, and before that being in the corporate world, scaling bottleneck usually starts with the people leading the project. In entrepreneur's case, the business owner. Wouldn't you agree that that person is usually the problem because they don't want to let go of stuff?
1,000%. We see this frequently where the bottleneck is the owner or the founder of the company. And it's typically in between that, $1 to $3 million, revenue range, and sometimes even well before that. But the only I can do this mentality is coming in. No one can do this as good as me. I'll just go ahead and get this done real quick, which ultimately leads to bottleneck and burnout, of that business owner. Whereas, when the true path to scale is to replace yourself every step of the way, to where you're ultimately delegating that responsibility to somebody else and removing yourself as the bottleneck.
Yeah, and burnout doesn't just affect you in business; it also affects your family, your personal lives. I mean, I've I've heard time and time again where small business owners say, "Oh, I've been through a couple of divorces, or I've been through a couple of bad relationships." You're smiling, but you've heard the story, right? Or I'm having problems getting together with my friends. And I always have a saying in my world that says, I work to live, not live to work. So,
Hmm.
what do you think about that kind of issue?
Well, I actually lived that. Okay, so I've been divorced, and I almost died
So have I.
because of my business. And I don't say that lightly. In my payment processing business before I sold it, they thought I had a stroke one day. I was at a doctor's appointment, and all of a sudden I got hit with massive, massive high blood pressure. I was dizzy.
Mm,
Fortunately, I didn't collapse. I was able to sit down, but I got rushed to the hospital, rushed into the cardiac unit, past everybody else, and thrown into a CT machine. They thought I was having a stroke, and it was directly tied to the amount of stress that I had deliberately and willingly taken on, in my company because I was the bottleneck. Everything ran through me. And so that was, one of the valuable lessons I learned in terms of like, I really have to give this stuff up. Otherwise, I literally could have died because of
yeah.
it. And so, as you said, live to work, or work to live, not live to work. I've really taken that to heart over the past 5 years.
Yeah, so have I. And I would also say the other problem is I think where entrepreneurs make the big mistake is they, as you said, they hang on to somebody, everything. They're the bottom mark, and they don't recognize, hey, maybe I'm not good at accounting, so maybe I should hire a bookkeeper. Maybe I'm not good at graphics work, so maybe I should hire a graphics guy. And it goes on from there. And I have another saying that says, if you're not good at stuff, get somebody to do it for you and kind of concentrate on what makes you a good business owner and generates you revenue. And I think that's something you got to really look at.
Yeah, there's a great book on that called Who Not How.
Yeah.
And it's actually, I used to actually wrote that on a post-it note, and I had it stuck to my monitor for a long time. But the concept, and this is something that I'll just use the example of video editing, right? So I create a lot of content. I have a full-time video editor on staff, and I don't need to have a video editor if I want to. Like I am capable of editing my videos, but here's the thing. I could spend 6 months doing it full time. That's it, where all I do is edit videos, and I'm still going to be likely below average as of, for somebody that I could hire and have them come on that's a true professional that can work on the schedule and free me up to do everything that I need to do to run the business, right? There's so much better things that most of us can be doing than sitting around doing these repetitive, tasks that could easily be delegated to somebody else.
Yeah. And simple things like if you have a house, and you're ordering stuff all the time. And I'm ridiculous at that. I'll order stuff from Amazon, I'll order stuff from Walmart, I'll ship it. And people around me say, "But that costs money." And I said, yes, but number one, I don't like stores. So
Right.
there's number one. Number two, it costs time and money to get to the store. And number three, by sort of delegating it, because that's what you're doing, you're saying Amazon or Walmart, do it for me. I'm freeing up my time to do other stuff, whether it's personal or in my business. So I know that's a simplistic way, but there's an idea.
Absolutely. And that's, you're paying for convenience, right? The
Yeah.
DoorDash is a great example of that, where, you're gonna quote unquote overpay, but you don't have to leave. I mean, if you're getting Five Guys burgers, there's one right down the street from my house. It'll take me a half an hour to get there, order, and come back. Or I can just order it. It'll be at my house in 20 minutes, and I'm going to pay an extra $5. I'm cool with that.
Yeah. And my partner Tiz is a good example of that. In her house, she's so busy that with Walmart now, they have a new program in Canada where they do delivery for a year and you pay a yearly fee like you do Amazon, and they offered a discount. And she's like, I'm all in because now for simple stuff for the house, I don't even have to go get it. And I said to her,
Yeah.
and she's so busy. And I said to her the other day on the phone, I'm really proud of her because she's recognizing the bottleneck. And she said, that's freeing me up even to relax. And that, I
Yeah.
mean, I know it's not a business example, but it's still a valid example. EO staff. So what do you guys do and How do you do it to help the entrepreneur and the business owner?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I built EO staff to help other founders scale their business by delegating repetitive and non-essential tasks to virtual assistants from the Philippines. And what this means, you can focus on admin, you can focus on ops, lead generation, and there are lots of there are lots of directions and ways that this could go. But essentially, at the core of it is we provide very qualified talent that can come in and work remotely in your business to take care of those things that you as the business owner, like video editing as an example, shouldn't be doing. And where it's really attractive is because our talent comes from the Philippines. It's a fraction of the cost of hiring domestically. And so, for founders that are in early stage or bootstrapping or running on lean profit margins, it's a great option to, most times you can't afford somebody domestically at the level that you want, and it's easily attainable hiring in another country.
Yeah, so if you're doing, and we all know Philippines is cheaper, typically India is cheaper. We all
Mhm.
know the knock against the Philippines is, first of all, the language barrier. Let's be fair, can be. Second of all, sometimes they're not paid as well, but they're not as good. How do you answer that? Like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can any country is going to run into that, right? In America or Canada, we have
Yep.
people that are non-skilled and people that are higher skilled. And actually, what I found in the Philippines is they typically speak better English than us. Obviously, there's an accent. Some
Yep.
people have stronger accents than others, and but the level of professionalism uh, and experience usually is equivalent or exceeds that domestically. And again, the price is proportionate, right? A lower level entry level person is going to be significantly less than somebody who's at the director level.
Yep. And how typically, what's the typical, like if I went to you and said, okay, I need a VA, I need one to do ABC, do you package it in a 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week and say, here's a package? Or do you say, here, we'll see how many hours it takes and charge by the hour? How do you typically work the pricing model?
Yeah, so the way that we do it is it's a full-time employee relationship. So for all
Okay.
intents and purposes, they're your employee. They stay on our books. We train them, we manage them, we pay them, we provide the benefits, everything like that to make it easy for our clients. But we got away from gig-based because one, we can control quality at a much
Yep.
higher level at that point. Gig workers are typically more transient, right, than full-time. They don't really care about stability. Whereas the full-time people, they want stability. They want to come in and grow with the company, and they're not looking for a month-long placement. They're looking for a forever placement. And so what we did was we adjusted our model to go to more of a traditional, almost like an American hiring agency, where we provide long-term support to our clients.
Hmm. Yep. And what's the typical job? Is it more admin work? Is it more lead work? Is it more things like content editing, or is it kind of a mix of all in between? Like what's typical for your clients? Or is there?
Yes. Well, I mean, in the beginning, it was all over the place. We would take any type of client, right? If you needed
Yeah.
whatever it was, they would say no to nobody. And over the years, we've really focused in. We do really, really well with lead follow-up and customer service types where it is client facing. Leads come in, we're constantly following up, we're calling them immediately, so speed to lead, obviously something that's very important. They're coming trained in that aspect. With light admin, so revenue based first with light repetitive admin on the back end. Then we also have a role where we flip it, where it's heavily admin and
Yep.
executive support with a little bit of with a little bit of lead follow up, maybe some customer service here and there, but more left brain than right brain in that point. And then we have full-time executive support. So if you're a busy person and you need, like for instance, with me, I've got a full-time executive assistant. She keeps me where I'm going. She keeps me organized. I'm not late. I'm always on time because of her. It really changed my life, just having somebody there that's like my right hand, essentially. And then we do a little bit of creative. Now we do that in fractional, because a lot of people, they don't need, say, a full-time video editor, right? So we actually
Yeah.
have them in on staff in our house, and we can, we can portion those off in blocks of hours, so they're fractional.
Yeah. And is the time zone, like you say, you have a full-time assistant. How does it work with the time zone?
Yeah, she works my hours.
Yeah.
Our employees, that's a requirement, is that they work full time and the night shift. And where it works great is because a lot of the times that's actually preferred over there, because one, the VAs, they're getting the American, they're getting the Canadian money, right? So they work
Yeah.
in a different time zone to get that. But then also, it still leaves, a lot of them have kids, a lot of them, so they're able to sleep while the kids are in school, or whatever it is. So they still get to really, really enjoy their life, working that third shift.
Yeah, that's really good. The other thing is, I can't have a marketing discussion anymore without mentioning two dreaded letters. And I think you know what they are. AI. We have to go there. Has AI impacted what you guys do or how you do it? Or it's a tool, but is it, has it hurt your business because a lot of people are turning there, or has it helped it? Where do you kind of sit in that one?
AI is, for us personally, has really helped us. We're able to now take somebody who is, we're able to take a VA, let's say, for instance, somebody in executive support, and supercharge them, right? Because
Yeah.
one of the things, they can be trained on how to use ChatGPT or Claude, or any of the other ones out there, to really, to really maximize their output. Down the road, maybe in the executive support, I haven't found any AI programs that could fully replace a person yet from that admin support. They still need somebody to drive the car, right? Now, if you're a
Mhm.
copywriter, if you're a graphic designer, video editors, things like that, it's moving a lot faster because of,
Yeah.
because of those softwares. But from a personal support standpoint, from a client interaction, from that one-to-one, where the personality and the communication is actually needed, we're not there yet. Probably soon,
No, I
but not yet.
not yet. Have you actually gone over to the Philippines to meet with staff, or have you had that
Believe it or
opportunity, or
not,
have you?
I haven't. I had a trip booked this year, and we canceled it last minute because those major typhoons came back to back to
Yeah.
back, and so I was not able to make it over there. But it is on my.
Yeah.
I'm going to get over there soon.
Yeah, the beauty of doing video conferencing, like we'd all be done if we couldn't do it, right? So it's,
Yeah.
people laugh. And I think the pandemic, 2020 brought that on, that we all can somehow cope doing this kind of thing. And it's kind of changed the way we do business, to be fair. So I don't think
Agreed.
that's as much an issue. Um, are you planning on expanding the business at all, or were you thinking down the road? Or
Yes, precautionary though. So, there's a risk of growing too fast, and I've done that
yeah,
before, where you have to, where you grow too fast and you have to cut back, and that's not good for anybody. One of the things I learned in my payment processing business before I sold it was, to maximize, everybody's output on the team, and so I was actually able to scale and sell. That was a multi-million dollar business, and I only had 4 employees. 3 of them were in the Philippines. One was here in the States. And the guy who actually bought
uh,
my company told me that it was one of the leanest operations he had ever seen, and one of the most profitable as well. And so I take those same concepts, and I'm trying to apply them here. Obviously there's a learning curve to that, but we've gotten that pretty dialed in to where we can really maximize the output of everybody on our team.
yeah. Does some industries work better than other industries for your service, or is it kind of a mixed bag?
For us, it's pretty uniform. At the end of the day, founders, regardless of what industry or business
Yeah.
that you're in, are usually experiencing the same types of issues, whether it's from an executive support, admin, or even lead gen and follow up. Everybody wants more customers. Most people think it's funny because they're like, "Oh, I need more leads." Well, in reality, most people don't follow up with their leads more than once or twice. And the
Yeah.
average sale happens on touch point 7 or 8 typically.
Yeah.
And so it's usually not, you don't need more leads, is you need to be able to work them consistently as opposed to just forget it. And I'm guilty of that too. I mean, it's, everybody is. So
Yeah.
getting that support in there where that is their full-time position is to get in there and just continually knock, 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 right? Until you get that yes or a no. That's been an absolute game changer for me and my clients.
Yeah, I agree. We talk about touch points. I almost wonder if it's more than 7 these days. I think people are just, looking. I had a client come back to me, last month, and they've been on my newsletter for 4 years. And they
Yeah.
finally said, now I'm ready to buy. And
Yeah.
I said to them, how long have you been following? And they said, about 4 or 5 years. So I
Yeah.
think there's more of that going on. And honestly, I don't want to turn this into a political show, but I think politics in North America and the world are impacting that to some degree. And I think
For
people are
sure.
just sitting on most stuff. The other thing is too is, and we got to realize is the leads have to convert too. So you have to be getting the right type of leads. So people always say, I want more leads. And I say to them, no, what you really want is the right leads, not more
Yeah.
leads. And there's a
Yeah.
difference when I say that, if you get where I'm coming from.
I do. And I actually, I kind of want to add to that if that's okay.
Sure, please, please.
We're finding, and we're seeing this, brand is more important than anything.
Yep.
And especially if you're the owner or leader of a business, most people think, oh, well, I have my company Instagram page or whatever. And that's not good enough anymore. People,
No.
they want to know, like, and trust with the actual owner, with the founder, with the face of the company. And
Yep.
to your point, there are people out there. I was just talking to a guy the other day. I ended up not working with him because it wasn't a great fit at the time. But I've been following him on Instagram for years. And he made an offer that I wanted to learn more about. I finally reached out to him. I was like, hey, I'm ready to talk now. And like I said, I'll work with him in the future in some capacity, I think. But having that personal brand is so important. And then to your point, with your social media, with Instagram, people are so concerned with these vanity numbers, right? They're like, oh, I
Yeah,
didn't get
I'm
a
not.
million views on the video. I'd
Yep.
rather get 100 views of 100 people that are qualified and actually want to have a conversation with me than get a million and have no one interested. Because at that point, you're just, you're just blowing hot air, to yourself. And,
Yeah,
and yeah, I mean, so I think that
it's
social
true.
media is both good and bad. You need to learn how to work it the
It-
right way.
It's interesting when you say personal brands, because I've always run my agency on social on a personal brand, not a corporate brand. And I've done that for years. I made that decision day one. And somebody said to me, you do not have an agency X account. You don't have an agency LinkedIn account. I said, I don't want one. And they
You
say
don't
to
need
me,
one.
why? And I said, my personal brand is more important because people hire my agency because of me. They choose who they want to work with. The services, and you know this, even in your business, they're very similar across the board. Let's be fair. And
Yeah,
services are commoditized. So what people are choosing is the people they want to work with. And that's why personal branding means more today than ever before, personally.
absolutely. And you're going to see that in 26, where CEOs of major companies, right, are going to start, making themselves more available to the public. It's so important.
Yeah, I would agree with you because I just sold up a major deal last week, and one of the reasons I did was because of the synergy between the client and myself, and it wasn't
Yeah,
even the services. I mean, he could have gone 5 other places, and I know that, but it's that thing going, and I think and personal brand. The more I think about it, is people are interested in their founder and the story behind their founder. So
yeah,
one of the things I would say to every entrepreneur out there is write yourself a founder story. Tell your story. People want to hear the story because they resonate with that storytelling. Very much so.
absolutely.
Yeah. Um, why Why do you think, I think this can be a hard question, but why do you think the VA business, especially running offshore VAs, because that's basically what you're doing,
Mhm.
gets a bad rap? gets a bad rap out there?
Man, I think this is an easy question.
Go ahead. Would
Couple,
you answer?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, first and foremost, right, the thing that I get so much hate in the DMs, and people say, "Oh, you're a slave driver. You are taking advantage of these
No,
people." And,
no.
you know, honestly, I challenge them to ask any of our employees if their life has improved since they started working for us. And
Hmm.
you're going to get a 100% yes. Now, are there people out there? Are there companies out there that take advantage? Absolutely. And I'm not going to name names, but some of the largest companies and well-known brands in the world have the reputation of being the absolute worst over, to their employees over there. They're treated like commodities, and I mean, we're talking zero tolerance. You're late one day, you're fired, right? Whereas
Yeah.
opposed to we bring a more compassionate,
Yeah.
where we're they're people, right? And so
Yeah.
from a standard of living, right, we're really improving their lives.
Yeah. And to be fair, it's the same thing as people in North America saying, I don't want to pay North American costs for a widget at the hardware store. So where did those
Yeah,
widgets come from? China. Why did they come from
China.
China? Because the labor's cost is less. And then they're screaming, saying, but that's hurting North American. And I would say, no. Do you want to pay triple the cost for everything? Like it's that catch 22, right? And that's exactly what you're doing is you're saying, hey, we can provide a good service, excuse me, but you got to go offshore to get it because if you do it at home, you're probably going to pay 5 times the labor costs you're paying to go offshore, right?
Well, yeah, but not only that. So I want you to think about this for a
Yeah,
second as well. Most people, right? If you have, say, you have a director level person in your business, right, and you're paying
yeah,
them, I don't know, $100,000 a year. Okay, let's just say that. Usually, those people are spending 60 to 70% of their time doing tasks that are not directly related to their position. Meaning, $100,000, right? I think I don't even know what the hourly is on that, but that's way more than six. I will tell you that. And so, what we've found is to be able to bring in administrative support from a different country at a lower level to remove all of those day to day those inefficiencies, the things that the job needs, but the person running it shouldn't be doing. It's well below their pay grade. All of a sudden, now that person's freed up to use the rest of that time on things that they were hired to use. They're able to bring that expertise in, and so they're getting out of that 60 or 70%, they're getting 50, 60, 70% back of that. So now they're actually focused on the job that you hired them to do, as opposed to sticking around doing bullshit all day.
yeah. I agree with you, and it comes back to the Walmart go order versus go get. I
Yeah,
can make way more money if I order something for the house or the home and say ship it to me and free my time up, and I call that meaningless crap, than if I go get it. So why am I not going to
yeah,
do that? Like it's just not even in my pay schedule, if you get what I'm saying. Like it's like
I do.
why for $60 a year versus $100 an hour? Like it doesn't compute. Like it just
Yeah.
you know. Um, what's the typical for, because you're saying you're dealing with a lot of directors and higher level people. What's the typical admin task people have problems with? I would think productivity, scheduling their time. I would say that's probably number one.
Yeah, for executives, if we're doing founder support, it's email. Definitely, we get somebody in there right away, get that email or get it organized.
Yep.
Typically, that's it can't be in my email. Look, we're not responding, right? We don't teach them to do that until you're comfortable, if you're ever comfortable doing that. But it's time management, it's organization. I'll give you an example. Most people, and if you're watching this or listening to this on a desktop, most people have their Gmail tab open all day long. And so
I do
typically
not.
one of the things that, I mean, yeah, it's you're one of the few. And one of the things that is just it's a habit, just like picking up your phone every 8 minutes, is going through and clicking through all your tabs during the day. And so the average person is spending, whether they know it or not, is spending 3 to 5 emails a day, or 3 to 5 hours a day just checking email. And so what I have Faye, who's my executive assistant, I check my email twice a day, and I go in, and the inbox is very nice and tidy, and my spam and everything that I don't need to be seeing has already been filtered out. If it's something that needs to be delegated, it gets delegated or it gets removed from the inbox. And I typically only have 3 or 4 emails that are stuck in there that absolutely require my attention. So I'm
Yeah.
in and out of that inbox in usually 15, 20 minutes tops.
Yeah, I think email is the bane of everybody's existence because we live in such a world. I don't know about you, Chris, but I've got clients that will text me and say, I just sent you an email. And yeah, so if it's that important, why didn't you pick up phone and call me? Number one. I have one client who I'm working with. I know he doesn't check email. His wife does it all for him, so I do gotta call him because I sent him a link and said, you need to order this like now. But generally I'm a couple times a day. Like I looked at mine when I got up this morning, to be fair. I haven't looked at mine again. I just don't do it. And people
Awesome.
forever, text messages are just as bad on my phone. Like people, I'll get texts from friends, family, business people, and it'll be like 10 minutes later, oh, I sent you a text. That's nice. What do you mean that's
Yeah.
nice? I said, it's not on my priority radar right now. That's nice. Like
Yeah.
you have to learn as a business owner to take back your time. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if I've told you, but my calendar looks like a Crayola coloring book. You know
Okay.
what I mean?
I
So
do.
I actually color code my entire calendar. I've done that for years. So I can take a glance at my calendar and say, okay, I'm doing a podcast record now. I've got a client appointment later. I've got a personal appointment tonight. I've got a doctor's appointment. I've got a family commitment. Um, I've got a offsite appointment yesterday, and they all have different colors. And I can look really at my calendar at a glance and say, okay, this. I don't even have to drill down. I know exactly what type of appointments I'm walking into. And I think honestly, I think productivity is where a lot of business owners hurt is they don't know how to manage their time. And worst of
Yeah.
all, they don't know how to build slack time into their schedule, which is even worse.
Yeah. Time blocking and color coding is really a secret that is a trick to. We always say, "Show me your calendar, and I can show you how much money you make." And that's
Yeah.
it's yeah. So that's the
I,
true
I learned
calendar
that
is
year,
the test.
I learned that years ago. And then the other thing people have to realize is you need to block time in your calendar. I don't know about you, but I actually let clients book right into my calendar, but there are designated times that they can block into
Mhm.
my calendar, even more so.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is what business owners, the tip is to haven't figured out is if you're running from meeting to meeting to meeting all day, which is easy to do, by the way, where do you have time to get any work done? And you're going to
Yeah.
burn out if you keep doing that. You just can't keep doing that.
Yeah, my calendar is time blocked. Each day I have some specific blocks for specific and I only do one block a day. So there are some days when I do sales calls and I do no client calls, and some days I do client calls and no sales calls, and I always put at least 15 minutes buffer in between each one.
Yeah.
That way I can do, and then I also try to separate my left brain and right brain days. Because if I'm thinking admin, I'm thinking operationally, the last thing I want to be doing is run into a creative call where I'm just, because that's a completely different,
Mm.
it's nearly impossible to do that effectively. So I do my creative days on typically Monday for me is an operations day. Tuesday,
Yeah.
Wednesday are creative days. And so, I
Yeah.
make a lot of content. I do my podcasts and, things like that on
Yeah, I
Tuesday
get
and
that.
Wednesday.
Monday's a day where I don't let anybody book into my schedule because there's always stuff
Yeah.
that comes up from the weekend, and I know Mondays tend to blow up in my world, so I just say nope. And people always say to me, "Can I get a meeting on a Monday?" No, sorry, not
Can't
going to
do it.
happen in my world. It just doesn't happen. That's all, and I'm okay with that. Like people have to learn. Um, somebody's looking at your service, and
Mhm.
I'm coming to you, and you don't know me. What were the three things you would say to me right away if I'm looking at hiring a VA or doing kind of help me with the process?
The first thing that I would ask is where's the time going? Like, so where do you think
Yep.
that you need the most help? Like, what prompted you to reach out, essentially? And then what I do from there is we start talking about their typical day to day. And what I found is most people, they come to us for one thing, what they think they need, and in reality, it's something completely different after we have a
Yeah.
conversation with
Yeah.
them. And
Yeah.
and that's a great thing because at least understanding, like, the first step is knowing you have a problem, right? And then when you finally hit that wall, you're like, okay, all right, I need some help. And then
Yeah.
typically, right, you try a couple things on your own before you go to a company like mine, and when they don't work, then we get brought in to fix everything. And so that the first thing we do is we look at what you're doing and what isn't making money, and then we circle those, and those are the things that we're going to delegate.
I would agree. Do you guys have so somebody comes to you and says they want a VA. You get to the point where
Mhm.
you agree they need a VA for A, B, and C. Do you have a minimum that they have to take a VA for? Like you say, you prefer long-term relationships, or how does that work?
Yeah, so our agreement states that we'll keep that position filled for up to a year, and sometimes, well, I'm
Okay.
sorry, and to a year. We do have shorter engagements, right? But again, you don't want to try a VA. You're not just trying, right? This is
No, I
something
agree.
that it's because when you have somebody that comes in and I just want to try it, it's already going to fail. Like, you've already given yourself an out, and and told yourself it's not ice cream, right? It's not, I'm going to go try this flavor of ice
Yeah.
cream and see
Yeah.
if I do it. It's you have a problem or a solution that you're looking for, right? Let's give it the attention it needs, right? Every business needs employees, right? You need somebody, unless you
Yeah.
plan on doing everything yourself, right? Until the day you die, and you can never sell that business. You have to build a team. And so, this is usually the first step, is to come in and, a lot of times, like, for instance, with me, I found virtual assistants after years of mishires, mishire, which, a bad hire can set you back, 3 to 6 months
Yeah.
plus thousands of dollars if you get it wrong.
Yeah, and it takes time if you're going to something this and you're looking for, say, for example, admin help. It takes time to build that cohesion between two people. It
For
takes time to
sure.
build the trust between two people. It takes time to build the skill set because the VA is going to develop as they go. There's a lot of things that have to happen there. And it's not the kind of thing where you take somebody, you drop it in, and you say, oh, go. It doesn't work that way. And
Yeah.
people don't realize that.
Yeah.
This is not
Yeah.
instant gratification.
There's a solid 90-day onboarding. And that's what we tell our clients, right? After 90 days, you should be rocking and rolling, sometimes before then. But the expectations a lot of times are just so out of line, right? We had a guy actually yesterday that we talked with, that when we did our discovery call and he signed up, he wanted somebody in the lead generation, right? Totally fine, cool, we got that. But then yesterday on our kickoff call, where we are actually diving into the role, that role had what we call role stretching, right? It had turned into 5 different sections, right? Of,
Yeah.
from writing 150-page reports, to organizing government contracts, to, to managing 100 leads a month. I looked at it and I was like, hey, I couldn't even do this, right? This is something that, and you're
Yeah.
expecting, so it's, it founders, we typically run at a much faster speed and a higher level than other people on our team. And that's just the nature of the beast. But, really setting realistic expectations about what somebody on your team is going to be able to do in a short period of time. That's why it's really, really important to make sure everybody's in alignment before you get started.
And realize you're making a long-term commitment. This isn't a
Yeah.
short-term fix it in a week and rinse and repeat. This is a let's build a relationship. Because really that's what you're
Yeah.
doing. I hate to say, and then let's work together and let's get there. It's the same as hiring an employee, except you're outsourcing it, really, when you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are there's a lot of gig stuff. You go on Fiverr, and Upwork and sites like that. Hey, that's great if you're just looking for somebody to come in, fix it, and move on. That's what they're there for. And I get behind those sites as well. But when you're looking at the full time employee aspect, somebody that's going to be long term, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, what I'll tell you over the years is I haven't had much luck with the sites, with the exception of one job. Really, I find the performance is subpar and then some, and AI's kind of changed all that because AI will do a lot of the stuff those guys are doing at like fractions of the cost, so it
and
doesn't even
faster.
matter anymore, and faster. I think the
Yeah.
only thing I've had really good luck with, personally, is the intro to this podcast. And that was done by somebody I found on Fiverr years ago. But beyond that, I haven't had really much success. So to be fair, great conversation. If somebody wants to know more about you, your business, how to hire a VA, how's the best way, Chris?
Yeah, the best way to find me is on Instagram. It's at I am Chris Kile. IAMCHRISKILLE. Lots of information there, lots of guides, just tons of, content, right? Learn about me, learn about the business, learn about just general lessons I've learned along the way and fun stuff too. But then also we have a guide. It's called the Ultimate Guide to Virtual Assistants, and it covers everything from where they are, what they do, how to find them, how to pay them. I mean, like if you are ever curious about how a VA can come in and help, or even if you just wanted to know, DM me the word ultimate and I'll send it right over to you guys. It's an incredible resource that I really wish I would have had whenever I was getting started.
Hey, Chris, thanks for the conversation. Much appreciated, and have an awesome day, my friend.
You bet. You too.
This podcast has been brought to you by Stunning Digital Marketing, your digital marketing concierge to help the business owner put all his pieces together, whether it's email marketing, WordPress security, WordPress design and development, PPC, and more. Text Stunning Digital Marketing for all your digital marketing needs today. A very special thank you to Chris for joining me on this edition of the SDM Show. The SDM Show is dedicated to my late father, Bruce Cairns. Dad, I miss you very much every day. My mother, Ann Cairns, who's still doing really well and is an inspiration. And of course, Tiz Maroney. And Tiz, I know I've said it, but thank you so much for all the inspiration you give me every day.